So I had emailed Jack a couple of times with questions about the poem being full of emotion and how to approach or how to develop a method to apply the things he was telling me to find a solve and to understand this poem in terms of Fenn's emotions. And his response to my last query was, you have to understand Forrest. He wanted to be understood. Try to understand what was important to Forrest, and then when you figure that out, extrapolate back from that.
This is episode 7 of Conversations with Cynthia. Many of you know I'm continuing to search for the nook where Jack found Forrest Fenn's treasure chest. Last week, I spent my first attempt in Yellowstone trying to do just that. Here is a recap of that trip. I went to Gardner, Montana, outside the north entrance to partake in a 3-day wildlife seminar, with plans to meet fellow searcher Steve afterwards. I wanted to talk Chase, and I wanted to talk Jack. I already had my preconceived search area based on overlapping information using Odious Soul's recent YouTube video, Dale Neitzel's email exchange with Forrest in 2012, and Gotti Schwartz's YouTube video from last year.
But I have been to where he was looking. I just wasn't searching at the time.
Okay. Shannon stated she had been to where Jack was looking. She just wasn't searching at the time. If you watch her April 2018 YouTube video, you can see they went as far as Old Faithful, stopping at fountain paint pots. In this May 2018 comment, Shannon writes, "We checked out most of the geyser basin between Madison Junction and Old Faithful." A few weeks ago, Dale mentioned on Amy Seek's show that in 2012, Forrest told him he had been within 100 yards of the chest. Forrest said, "But I didn't say it was necessarily a place you were searching. You could have driven by it." So Dale sent Forrest an email with his recent routes driven between Santa Fe and Yellowstone, as well as a few side trips. Included on this list, Ojo Caliente and Fountain Flats. Overlap number 3 is Gotti Schwartz.
I was convinced that it would be out there for centuries, even though one time Forrest told me I came within a couple of miles of the box.
Where are you in this video, let me ask?
Somewhere in the mountains north of Santa Fe.
Which is all Forrest Fenn.
Way north of Santa Fe. Actually, that's in Yellowstone. Yellowstone is beautiful, and it's no secret that I think it's in Yellowstone. Forrest has talked to, that's very important video right there. If you can find that video, you'll see me around there this summer. That's kind of...
Where is the overlap for these 3 searchers? Right here near the Firehole River. You have Shannon's fountain paint pots, Dale's fountain flats, and Gotti's couple miles from Firehole Falls. As Steve and I hiked up Rescue Creek Trail the one day, we talked about the 3 searcher overlap and Jack telling Steve to try to understand what was important to Forrest. That brought our discussion to river bathing is best and the last sentence, surely God underestimated his ability when he created the Firehole River. Now what? In Dan Barbarisi's recent book, Jack talks about his path to the treasure. He says, "I was not long out of my car, making my way through some difficult terrain, and suddenly I saw something in the distance, and it was this blaze. He calls it a fake blaze. Jack says he eventually found Fenn's treasure about 1,000 feet from this fake blaze." As Steve and I sat in the meadow near the top of the ridge, we pondered, could we, or I, find the fake blaze without solving the 9 clues in the poem, or did we need to solve at least some of them, mainly Home of Brown and No Paddle Up Your Creek? I wasn't sure, but I did know one thing. The Firehole River near Ojo Caliente that runs through Fountain Flats is one of the most beautiful places I've ever had the opportunity to visit. There is fly fishing for fish, There is fly fishing for ducks and fly fishing for bison. There are numerous creeks: Fairy Creek, Warm Creek, which actually is warm water like a bathtub, Sentinel Creek, and Spiderweb Creek. Just kidding about Spiderweb Creek. But the biggest unknown clue of all, in my opinion, what is home of brown? There are several options used by hundreds of searchers throughout the years. Most popular, the Nez Perce confluence into the Firehole River, as well as Mattie Culver's grave, which is nearby. But what about Shannon's fountain paint pots? This description says the fountain paint pot is named for the reds, yellows, and browns of the mud in this area. In $17 a square inch, Eric Sloan said, brown is a neglected color. The dictionary says it is any of a group of colors between red and yellow. And finally, we have this Q&A with Jack. Jack answers Susie's question, did Eric have anything to do with the solution or the location? Jack's words, I think anything that was important to Forrest could have been important to the solution. Eric was certainly important to Forrest. So this all took me to Fountain Flats Drive, where I intended to look for the Nook. I could have cried as I pulled up to the gate. It was still closed until May 28th. But I didn't cry because I knew I would be back in 2 weeks. Final comment regarding the now famous line from the California Sunday magazine from 2015. Forrest said, hopefully, at my last dying gasp, I will still go back to that place and die at my favorite... ... An excerpt shared by Dale from Marvin Fenn's fishing diary. There are many references to wonderful fishing at the swamp hole on the Firehole. So there you have it. And last but not least, for anyone who read Dan's recent book, he gave me permission to show his and my pictures of his blaze in Yellowstone, the River of Fire.